Hello everyone, this is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching with today's video about a new quilt block, and the title of this one is Small and Large Flying Geese, and an old looking 16-inch quilt block made with 4 colors. What I liked about this block was that it had nice pieces put together. Like you have the 4 patch on each corner. You have a little flying geese around the center block. Everything builds from the center. And then you have the larger flying geese on the outside. And before you know it, you're completely done. And you have this big 16-inch square. The first thing I want to show you is the 4 colors that I chose to do this block. And it took me a little bit to figure this out because, I had been doing a lot of 2 colors with white. And then I'm going to show you how the pieces lay out as we go. But actually, what I started with was the purple because I just really liked that. And that was something I had. And then I got a color that went with it. Well, I found a couple. And then I chose this brown one. And you're going to see those together. Okay? And then you notice that's light and that's darker. Then the next one, there's another thing that's similar, that's dark and light. And you have the orange colored one, which also goes with that. That's why I've got these laying like this. And then there is another color that contrasts with that. And this one just had some brown in it. So I sort of seemed to follow the pattern. But, sometimes you can't ever tell until you actually make that first block. And then you get a really good idea. And this time I thought I'd do it a little differently because it was a lot of fun. And you start with that center block. It's a 4.5-inch square. And that's that one that's got that little bit of brown in it. And then you come out with the small flying geese. And you put 1 on each side. Now your geese is going to point in. And I'd go and put the other one on there. So you've got that side. All right. Then the other side, we still have the flying geese. But we also have the corners, which are that brown color. We're pulling in that brown color now. And this is not a hard pattern to cut out. Okay, except I got a little bit extra right there. All right, then the next part, we go back to our flying geese. And this is where you use the large one. And I'm going to tell you that there is bias on this. And it comes over on this side. And I'll show you that back on that sample that I had. So I'll tell you now and remind you later. For that one, I just went ahead and ran stitching around the edge. The other thing to do is you can starch it and press it, and then cut it out carefully and stitch it. And so right now I'm pretty pleased with the way that one's coming out. So I'm going to put 1 on each side again, and they're pointed in. And then we're going to do like the other one. We're going to have our corners. These are our 4 patch. These were fun to make. And I'll put my goose in there, and there you go. Got to have face the right direction. And do the other one. And you'll say, well, nobody could mess up the flying geese and have them point the wrong way. Yes, you can. If you just have this whole thing laying out, then you back up and you look at it. And the one thing is that the brown is going to be on the corner. So there I had to turn this one. I've got to turn this one. I have to turn all of those so that the outer corner is the brown that's up there. And here again, you get it all laid out. You can see the pieces. Now you see how it's going to go together. And so now we're back to the block that I sewed together. And you can see my corners are right. I've got brown squares on the corners. And then I do want you to look, though, you can even see it just from here. Look at this flying geese. And you can see what I did. And between the sewing and the cutting and the pressing, I distorted that. And I also did that one on the end. And the block is a 9 1/4 inch block. And so anytime you have something that starts getting that big, you probably want to take and either do the starch or do the stitching around the edge. And then I'll show you how I laid them out. For section 1, I did the 4-patch. And the fabric's the light and the dark. The strips are 2.5 inches wide. And to do one block, everything I'm looking at now is for one block, you need a 20-inch strip of the light and the dark. And you sew those together lengthwise. Press them toward, open your seam, take your seam and press it towards the darker fabric and cut it into 2.5 inch segments and sew 2 segments together. All right, and these were 2 segments that I had, and because I ironed the seam on the other side towards the dark, when I lay these on top of each other, then I'm going to do the block that locks. And this is one of the few times that I just really like to do that, because you're going to do a lot of them. You make your strips and you put them, and now they're locked. And when I stitch that, it's going to make one of those nice squares like you like. So that will look so pretty. So that was the 4-patch. Then let's look at the flying geese. And they're going to be done the same way. So here's the small one. And one of the things that you do with these blocks, these are 2 4 7/8 square with your light fabric. And you're going to take, and I used my good little tool here, if you can see it, where I just laid it down. Before I set them down like that, I laid them down and I drew the lines on there with a mechanical pencil, because it just showed up. These are darker because it was a marker for you to see. Once you get all of those marked, then your first time, you're going to take and set your first box up here on the corner. And then opposite that, you're going to lay the other block, and you're going to line those lines up. And you may want to pin it, depends how your material is, especially when you get to the larger flying geese. And so this one you're going to sew, and this time I did sew right on the line. Sew on the outer line. Sew on the outer line. The center is your cutting line. And then when you take that, you're going to press your seam towards the small square, small triangle that you have. And even on the larger one, you're going to do the same thing and press that. And we'll look at that. And then we'll add the other 2 pieces to the other corners. And you'll have a nice set of your flying geese. You'll have your 4 pieces. And they're both made exactly the same except for the size. So now we're back to our big square again. And now what you would do is you would hook the 4 square outside of the goose and the other one on that side. You're going to put the flying geese. When you have the center box fixed, you're going to do that, and then put the other one on that. All right, and remember the center box is the 4.5 inch square, and these will be in the description. And then the 2 small flying geese hooked, and you put the 2 on the sides first, and you put the 2.5 inch block attached to that, 2.5 inch block attached to that. And then finally you've got your last row, and it's got your 4-patch on the corner and the flying geese. And that pretty much is the way it's going to go. I think, I'm not sure, but I might do a part 2 where I actually do some of the stitching for the block. But this one was just different. And this looks like a good place to stop on this. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and hit like and leave comments. And anything that I need to let you know otherwise will be in the description. The source of this block is the Love of Quilting magazine for July, August 2021, page 36. Thank you.